Hey guys, today we're checking out the Beelink SER3 Mini PC. In the box are two HDMI cables, one is 20 centimeters, the other one is 1 meter. There's a VESA mount to install the Mini PC on the back of your monitor. Screws to install an optional 2.5-inch SATA hard drive. And a power supply rated at 19 volts and 3 amps. At the front, here you can clear the CMOS. We have two USB 3 ports, USB Type-C, headset and power, which has a power LED. Now the USB-C port is meant to carry a video signal, but did not work for me. At the back we have gigabit Ethernet, two USB 3, two HDMI 2.0. I've tested them and they work with 4K and 60 Hz. And here goes the power supply. The processor is an AMD Ryzen 7 3750H. Unfortunately, this is an older chip from 2019. We've got 4 cores and 8 threads, and it's rated at up to 4 GHz. However, when we run benchmarks, the actual frequencies we're getting are quite lower. In Cinebench R23, we're getting a multi-score result of 3879, and I saw the frequency around 3066 megahertz. The temperature was around 76 degrees, and I saw a power reading of 33 watts. Cinebench R23, the single core result, we're getting 965. The clock speed is higher, around 3.8 gigahertz, but also the temperature a little bit higher, around 80 degrees with a maximum of 87, and the machine consumed around 24 watts. The machine comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Unfortunately, Beelink decided to go with a single 16 gigabyte module. I would have preferred two 8 gigabyte modules because then the machine runs in dual channel configuration with better performance, especially with graphics. We have a 512 gigabyte M.2 NVMe storage. Here are the results from Crystal Diskmark, and the performance is pretty good. In CloudGate we're getting 11,203, in Skydiver 6,617, and in Firestrike 1,782. Gaming performance unfortunately was disappointing. We have AMD Radeon Graphics in this machine, and on paper it can run up to 1400 megahertz, but in reality it performs much worse. Here we have Cyberpunk 2077 running at 720p with low details, and we're getting around 15 FPS. And if you look at the MSI Afterburner overlay, we can see that the clock speed of the graphics is only 700 megahertz. So this basically means that the graphics performance is half of what it could be. So we could have around 30 FPS in this game if the graphics solution would run at 1400 megahertz. Unfortunately, it doesn't. It clocks at only 700 megahertz in many games. Older games run a little bit better. Here we have Dirt 3 running at 1080p with ultra details. We're getting around 30 FPS, and the reason is that the CPU in this game doesn't need to work as hard as in Cyberpunk 2077, and therefore there is more power available for the graphics part, and we can see here the GPU frequency sits at around 1000 megahertz. Still, it could run at 40% higher performance. I tested a few more games. This is Tomb Raider Legend 1080p, and this seems to be running quite comfortably. The GPU clock speed is also around 1000 megahertz, and older games should run well on this machine. Here we have Serious Sam, The Second Encounter, and we're getting well over 60 FPS. This runs at 1280 by 960, so retro games, older games should run perfectly fine on this machine. But does it run Crysis? Here we have the game running at 1080p with high details. We're getting around 30 FPS, and once again the GPU frequency is around 1000 megahertz. When I tested the wireless performance, I got a surprise. Beelink used the older 802.11ac Wi-Fi adapter instead of the newer AX, and we can see the performance is a lot less than comparable mini PCs. We're getting around 40 megabytes per second, but had they gone with wireless 802.11ax. On other mini PCs, I saw performances up to 170 megabytes per second. That is with a Wi-Fi 6 router. So I'm not quite sure what Beelink was thinking. They're not saving much, but you're really missing out on performance. Fan noise is not too bad, especially compared to some of the other mini PCs that we looked at. This one is quite acceptable. But I think this has to do with the reduced performance of the graphics solution. Very likely Beelink decided to go with a lower power rating for this machine. And finally, there is no such thing as a bad mini PC, only a bad price. You're looking at $599 for the model with 8 GB of RAM and 256 GB of storage, and you're looking at $689 for the model with 16 GB of RAM and 512 GB of storage. So guys, what is my opinion? Well, the machine worked fine. I didn't have any issues, but we're missing out on significant performance. Firstly, by going with a single memory module instead of two, so we don't get the dual channel performance, especially in graphics performance. You can notice that. Next, we saw that the GPU clock is a lot less than what it can do on paper, up to 1400 megahertz. In reality, it runs at around 1000 megahertz in older games and around only 700 megahertz in modern titles. And also without that, the Wi-Fi solution is not the latest. They decided not to go with 802.11ax, which means slower data transfer rates. And that's it for this video, guys. Let me know what you think of this product. Give it a thumbs up if you found the video useful. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Share the video with your friends and let me know what else you want to see, and I'll do my best to make it happen. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I shall see you soon with another one.